Hey everyone, got another update for you. We've got great news. The motor samples arrived just yesterday afternoon, and so we built them up on one of the Ringos, and we're going to run it, and it actually is working out pretty well. This is slow speed, that's 50 out of 200, and then we've got medium speed, which is, I think it's 125. That was about 200, and then max speed is flying. And then it repeats again. It's not using the gyro or anything to steer, it's just turning the motors on. Just so we can see how the performance is. Yeah, it's got plenty of power. And interestingly, we don't have any pads on the motor tips right now. We were putting some heat shrink on there, and we thought that was necessary to get the traction, and we realized that the motors were actually spinning inside the heat shrink. And for production, we'd planned on putting some potting material on the end, which is like a 2-part epoxy rubber, and it'll bond to anything and it stays on there forever. And we figured that'll give it a little bit of extra tact, so it'll have a little more traction. But when we pulled off the heat shrink just to see what would happen, we realized that it kind of doesn't need it. So once we get the production motors, once we get the whole lot of them, we're going to put the potting material on a few of them, and we'll see how that actually does, and if it's really required, if it makes a difference or not. But you can see it's just flying around just fine without any kind of grip on there at all. And we think that maybe it's even better to leave the grip off for the simple fact that when it crashes into something and it gets jammed up or whatever, that it doesn't jam up the motors. So the motors will just naturally just spin on the surface. Oh, it's back to slow. Yeah, we figured that maybe letting the motors just spin on the surface is actually a better way, because I mean, inevitably these things are going to like run into obstacles and get caught, or the kids are going to like catch them and hold on to them or whatever. So that way it doesn't bog down the motors. It just allows the motor tip to spin freely against the surface. So yeah, so it's not vibrating or anything. All it is just the little shaft of the motor is pointing down on the table, and as it spins, it's got plenty to keep it going. It does pretty well on the concrete too. This is a pretty smooth floor. That's slow, that's medium, a little bit faster, and then high speed. So that's it. Good news that the motors are going to work for us. So very happy to report that. Cheers.